Okay, great. So we're recording and I muted everybody, but you have the ability to unmute yourself if you want to. So please do so if you have a question. And um, the last time we had a meeting, people were texting me, emailing me, and using the chat, their questions. But then if you could, please just unmute yourself or use the chat function because it was kind of hard for me to track my phone, my email, and the chat message. So feel free to ask questions or whatnot. And today will be a very short meeting, and then I will answer the 3 questions that were emailed to me and so forth during this discussion. Okay, so without further ado, and today we have Adam Henning here joining me, and we have he's within our unit. He does YCEP in hospitals. He's much smarter than me, so if you guys have any hard questions, send them to Adam.
Yeah, whatever. Hey, Sam, I'm gonna monitor chat too for us. So if anybody wants to put anything in chat, I'll keep an eye out on chat.
Okay, thank you. And
Yep.
we also have Mandy Wilding. She's our procurement person, and she's here to actually babysit me, so I don't say anything incorrectly. But she's here to answer any tough procurement questions. So I have support here today. Okay, so without further ado, hi Mandy. Okay, so without further ado, and it'll be a real short meeting. Um, okay. Did the PowerPoint switch on you guys? Just want to be sure. Okay, hopefully it did. Okay, um, so the main points are there's going to be 2 documents that will be emailed out once I have the YouTube video link, and I'll send out the PowerPoint, and we'll review the 2 documents. And the grant period, people wanted to know when will it end. The grant period is from March 13th to September 30th, 2022. So it will cross biennial. So
Oops,
if you
I'm sorry, 2023.
Okay, but Mandy, I saw here September 2022.
That's for ESSER. ESSER 2 is 2023.
Okay, 2023.
Sorry to
Okay.
interrupt.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. That's why we have Mandy here. All right, great. Thank you. Okay, 23. Okay. Okay, great. So September 30th, 2023. Let me save that. Okay. We will have individual grant agreements with claims for reimbursement in EGOMs. So if you are an ESD or school district that have multiple contracts with our unit, such as JDEP and LTCT, you will receive an agreement for JDEP and a separate agreement for LTCT. And of course for YCEP too. But for YCEP, LTCT, and hospitals, if you have multiple programs within, multiple sites within that program, you have a single contract. But for JDEP, it's different. For JDEP, they're going to have separate agreements for each individual site. JDEP is the only site. And then JDEP, I surveyed the JDEP people, and then it was unanimous that they all wanted separate agreements. They didn't want a single agreement. Okay. We will try to mirror the school district and ESC grant agreements as much as possible, such as the reporting requirements, the deadlines, and so forth. We want to make it, we don't want to confuse everybody. We want to make it as simple as possible for everybody. So that's our commitment. ESSER 2 funds must be tracked separately from ESSER 1 and other Oregon funds and federal funds. And so right now, we don't know what it will look like, but it's 3 annual reports and a final end of grant report. Those are some of the reporting requirements. And here's something normally, and this is something that we wanted people to chime in on. But then before we do the discussion, I wanted to review the 2 PDFs. So, and then people ask about these questions. So here, ESSER 2 grant use. Somebody asked, can they use for mental health services? Yes, number 10. It says providing mental health services. And then also for the other, here's ESSER funds. These are some of the availability awarded. So it can either be awarded via a contract or sub-grant, and so forth. And it must be tracked separately. Yep. And then these two documents will be emailed out with a PowerPoint and the YouTube video hyperlink recording. And so forth. So for the last discussion, we normally have our reimbursements by 3-year month periods, but then I think, is it okay, or do you guys have any comments about submitting claims as your claims arise? Instead of having to wait until the 3 months are up, instead of us dividing up the amounts how do you guys want it? And everyone is unmuted, or you can unmute yourself.
I am unmuted myself. It's Christine, Multnomah ESD. If we were to say yes to submit them as they come through, does that mean that we shouldn't wait for 3 months, or can those who want to submit them early, and those who wish to wait for the 3 months, wait for the 3 months?
Okay,
Sam,
so
do you want me to answer the question?
sure.
How the grant would be set up is that you can claim reimbursement for actual costs as frequently as you wish. So if you want to wait 3 months to submit a claim in EGOMS, you can. If you want to submit it monthly, you can. There wouldn't be any disbursement caps or limitations on when you could submit a claim for an expense. And the expense can date back to March 13th, 2020.
Thank you.
When would the funds become available to claim?
We are finalizing the grant agreement now. It does need to go through DOJ for approval. My goal is to have it the month of April, if possible.
Okay. The reason I ask is we're getting close to the end of the fiscal year, and retroactive posting of revenue into another fiscal year is a cumbersome accounting process. So it'd probably be more feasible to use it for future.
Yes, and Ray, to be honest too, once we have the agreement out, your school district would have to sign it, and then your school district may be one of those school districts where the board has to approve it.
Yeah.
And so forth. So that we recognize that. So it might be a little long. Like, even though it's an EGOMS, you may not be claiming until we have a fully executed signed document by both parties.
Yeah. I think we could go through the accounting function of posting the revenue for the correct, and the cash could be claimed at a later date before, books are finally closed before the audit. So I think everything is workable. I just wasn't really sure if to make a finite date of July 1 for my district and have everything applied to an entirely different fiscal year than the current one, so that I don't have to overlap or any looming deadlines to June 30th to match. I'm good with it.
Okay, thank you, Ray. Yes, and we do recognize that this grant will cross biennial, potentially 3 biennial, and so forth. So it's gonna and it's good, and so forth. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Or does anybody want me to switch to like the JDEP, YCEP JDEP screen, or hospital screen, or LTCT screen?
So
And
Sam,
these can be emailed out too.
Sam, I have a question. This is Crystal Mooney with JDEP Services. Is this now open for our program to be able to apply for this grant?
No, it is not. Because it only applies for LTCT sites.
Okay, and I thought that we were supposed to be having a meeting regarding that today with JDEP Services, and I don't want to use everybody else's time up, but maybe Sam, you and I can hang on after to have this discussion.
Right, I thought, oh, yeah, after, yeah, because I thought Mary was trying to set up a meeting.
Yeah,
Did she
I thought
set
it was. I thought that was this meeting today at 9.
Oh, no, 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 yeah. So this
Okay.
was this is related to ESSER, a
Okay.
totally different funding mechanism. Yes.
Okay. And JBAR Youth Services does not qualify for these funds.
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Other questions?
Sam, this is Toby. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you, Toby, from Klamath.
Yeah. Hi there. Hey, you know, at Klamath, we're going to be a little short in the coming years for our teaching position based on our ADM. Are these funds, are we able to supplement the teacher salary with this funding source if needed?
Yep, here's number 15 on the use of document funds.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, yep. Any other questions? Good question, Toby. Okay. Okay, so no other questions. Okay,
Real quick,
I just have a
Sam.
comment
Okay.
real quick.
sure.
Hi, everyone. I so often am just emailing you, asking you to sign a document. It's really cool to see who I'm actually sending stuff to. So I just wanted to make that comment.
And Brent from WSD, you had a question?
Well, so are you saying we're gonna have separate contracts this time for each item? Because I think on the first one, we have one contract for WSD, and then it has State Hospital and YCEP and JDEP and YCEP and all of that stuff together.
Yes. So for instance, Brent, for WSD, you have a YCEP, you have hospitals, and you have JDEP. So you will have 3 separate agreements.
And then tagging on to that, I'm not the procurement officer working on the ESD specific agreements for ESSER 2, but there will be a WESD ESSER 2 agreement for EIECSE. It's actually not specific to EIECSE. It's a percentage of those funds are dedicated to EIECSE.
And
If that-
regionals, WSD regionals. I think they also have regionals. Yep. Does that answer your question, Brent?
Yeah, thanks. We just had one contract for all of it for ESSER 1, I think. So
Yes.
this, t-
Yes,
so
but
this time
yes, yes.
I've got all the amounts for all of them, and we're trying to get finish our budget up here, but for next year, but it's fine as long as we'll just know we'll have separate contracts for each one.
Yeah, because Brent, for ESSER 1, the amounts from ESSER 1 compared to the amounts now, for ESSER 2, it's drastically different, right? For instance, and then I'm making this larger. For JDEP, you got 5,000 total statewide. For YCEP statewide was 14,000, but then now we have statewide, YCEP got $1 million. JDEP got $500,000. So yeah, so it would have been very, I think, inefficient for us to have created individual, JDEP agreements, for $237, 324,
Yeah.
and so forth.
Yeah, ESSER 1 was pretty small for those things. Yeah.
Yeah. So because it's a different, different tremendously amount more, we just, we're going this route. And of course, it's also easier for instance, for the site at Jackson County, for Medford School District to actually send that amount to Jackson County when, for instance, when Medford had their, here's Medford School District, there's $500. That $500,000 is part of that 3.5 million. It's easy to get lost, but then pulling the 40,000 out of Medford's amount is a lot easier for Tracken to allocate. Yep. Any other questions?
Sam, Chris Panicky here in LeGrand. Are you going to be sending out that approved uses for the ESSER funds?
Yes, Chris, yes. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
gonna send this, and this talks about mental health. Can you see
Yeah.
number 10?
That's one important to us.
Yes, I know. That's why I highlighted it just for you, Chris.
Thank you.
You're the mean guy, Chris. Whatever Chris wants, Chris gets.
So, Sam, a question here on tracking. You say that the ESSER funds have to be tracked separately. We have 3 separate funds now for ESSER 1, 2, and 3. So I'm thinking that what you're saying is that we probably should track it within the ESSER funds, but probably with this different area or sub-area so that we can differentiate it, but it would be outside our LTCT fund. But that would put it in the right bucket, I think, if that's what I hear you saying.
Yeah. So let's just say like Chris, like your LTCT grant agreement is 1,100, like 10,000, but then your ESSER agreement may be like 3,000, 13,000, your agreement number, you'll have 2 separate agreement numbers, one for your regular LTCT, and you'll have a separate agreement for your ESSER fund.
So is the ESSER money flowing through LTCT going to have a different CAFTA number than what the ESSER money flowing through ODE will, or is it going to be the same CAFTA number?
Mandy?
You say CAFR, I'm not familiar with accounting.
There's a federal number that's all federal funds have CAFTA numbers.
You mean the CFDA number?
Yes.
Absolutely, yes. The ESSER money is coming from a federal award that is different than the federal awards that are funding the regular LTCT, YCEP, JDEP programs.
So how about the funding that's coming through ODE to school districts through our Title I formulas?
All of the ESSER 2 money has the same federal award number and CFDA number.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. That tells me, that answers the question. We'll put it all in the same fund, just with a different sub-area number.
The ESSER 1 money had the same CFDA number, but I believe it had a separate GAN, a separate FAIN number, federal ID number.
That helps. Thank you.
These are good questions, and now's the time to ask the questions instead of emailing me. And I keep repeating this. As soon as the webinar ends, people will email me questions and so forth. And I wish they asked it during the webinar so everyone could hear it and so forth. So somebody asked to confirm ESSER 1 and ESSER 2 have same CFDA number. Mandy, I don't think so, right?
I think so.
They do have the same CFDA number, but they have a different federal, the different FAIN number, Federal Award Identification Number. And why that's important to point out is federal guidance regarding assets. You're supposed to tag assets that are over, in compliance with 2 CFR, I think 313, that are over $5,000, capital assets. You have to tie them to the specific FAIN. If any of you aren't sure what I'm talking about, one of your fiscal people would know.
We're being instructed through ODE from the fiscal side that each of these ESSER funds, even though they may have the same CFD number, that they be tracked in separate fund number.
Yes.
Yep.
It's
right here.
Be tracked separately.
Yep. Yep. That is correct, Chris. Yep. Any other questions or comments? Okay, if there's none, okay, I'm going to end the meeting. But Susan, can we, Susan Peck from Southern Oregon University, regarding your other email about that equipment and shed, you want to stay on so we can talk about that?
I would love that. Thank you.
Okay, all right, okay. Thank you, Susan. Okay, all right, bye, everybody. Thank you for participating. And I'm gonna stop the recording now, and I keep getting that phone call from somebody. Okay.